Do you remember planning a road trip with a paper map? Or waiting days just to see how your photos turned out? What about handwritten letters, with feelings poured into every word? It may sound like a different era, but for many of us, that was simply life. And only those who lived it truly understand how different, and in many ways, how much more beautiful, it really was. In today's video, we're going on a journey through time. A nostalgic look at 10 things that only people over 50 will instantly recognize. Moments, habits, and ways of living that slowly disappeared with the rise of computers, the internet, and everything that came after. But somehow, those things left behind traces, deep ones. And many of them, we still miss. Because before Google, before Wi-Fi, before social media, there was time. There were long talks, face to face. There was waiting, and with that, a greater appreciation for every moment. Younger generations might find it all a bit strange, but we know there was something special in that simpler, more human way of life. And believe me, when you get to item number 1, it might awaken memories you didn't even know were still inside you. So stay with me until the end. This one might move you. Oh, and before we begin, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. This is a space made with care for those who lived in a world that existed long before the screens. 10. Writing letters by hand. Before WhatsApp, emails, and instant messaging, there was paper, a pen, an envelope, and something that today feels almost forgotten, the art of waiting. People used to write letters as if they were pouring part of their soul onto the page, slowly, intentionally, surrounded by silence. There was no delete key, no autocorrect. Every word was chosen carefully. And if you made a mistake, you either fixed it with care or started all over again. Once finished, you'd head to the post office, buy stamps, stand in line, and then wait, sometimes for days, sometimes for weeks. But when the reply finally arrived, it felt like opening a gift that had traveled through time. The paper held more than words. It carried scent, creases, fingerprints, maybe even a dried tear or the tremble of emotion in the handwriting. We'd read it, reread it, fold it gently, and often respond with our heart pounding. In the 1970s, the average delivery time for a standard letter within the same country was 3 to 5 days. International replies, they could take up to a month. Yes, it was slower, but it was also deeper, more intimate, more human. And to think, in this world of instant everything, some of us still miss when love came folded in 4, with a stamp in the corner. But if writing letters took patience, just wait until you remember what it was like recording your favorite songs off the radio. That was a mission worthy of a ninja. 9. Recording cassette tapes from the radio. Recording a song straight from the radio was an art, and honestly, a full-blown adventure. You'd sit there, finger hovering over the REC button, heart racing, palms sweating, just waiting for that special song to play. And when the opening chords finally came on, relief. But not for long. You had to act fast and pray the DJ wouldn't talk over the intro, which, let's be honest, they almost always did. Making the perfect mixtape wasn't just about musical taste. It took planning, patience, and precision. You needed to know the radio schedule, guess what song was coming next, and be ready to hit pause or stop at exactly the right moment. Each side of the tape had a time limit. Mistakes weren't welcome. And sometimes, you'd redo the whole thing just because the last song got cut off early. In 1983, over 80% of homemade recordings in countries like the US and UK were made directly from the radio. And every tape we made was unique. It held our moods, our memories, our stories. It wasn't just music. It was emotion captured on magnetic tape. Today, we carry thousands of songs in our pocket. But nothing feels quite like those old mixtapes we made with love, time, and way too much rewinding. Because each cassette was like a diary, one that sang your life back to you. And speaking of preserving memories, do you remember what it was like to take a photo and not see the result right away? Number 8 will almost let you smell the film again. 8. Developing photos, without knowing if they turned out right. These days, we take 10, 20, sometimes 50 pictures of the same moment, and delete most of them in seconds. But if you lived before the digital era, you know what it meant to trust a single click. Taking a photo used to be an event. There was no preview. No correcting closed eyes or crooked smiles. You pressed the button and waited. You waited for the roll to finish. Waited to take it to the store. waited for it to be developed. Only then would you find out if the shot you really wanted had actually turned out. And often, it hadn't. The best moments were sometimes blurry, overexposed, or just out of focus. But still, we kept them. Because they were real. Because they were one of a kind. In the 1980s, a standard roll of film allowed for 12 to 36 photos. Development could take 2 to 5 business days. And even the express service still took hours. There was something magical about opening that envelope. The smell of photo paper. The surprise of reliving that day. The laughs at unexpected faces or awkward poses. The photos went straight into albums, onto walls, into wallets. And they stayed there. They were memories you could actually touch. Today, we capture thousands of images a year, but very few are printed. Few are saved. Fewer still are truly felt. Maybe that's why so many of us miss when a photo was more than a file. It was a piece of life that smelled like the past. And if seeing a single image took days, imagine planning an entire trip using a map that folded like origami. Number 7 might just make you want to check the glove compartment, for old time's sake. 7. Traveling with paper maps. And getting lost was part of the adventure. Today, GPS tells us exactly where to turn and how many feet until we do it. But it wasn't always that way. Anyone who lived through the age of printed maps knows that traveling used to be a real exercise in intuition. You'd open that giant sheet of paper on your lap, the hood of your car, or the kitchen table. You'd trace the route with a ballpoint pen and hope you didn't miss the exit. There was no recalculating. If you took a wrong turn, you had to find a gas station, stop, and ask for directions. And even then, with the classic turn left after the red barn, then go past the old church, getting lost was practically a guarantee. But you know what that brought? Stories. Discoveries. And that wonderful feeling of truly exploring the world. In the 1980s and 1990s, road atlases like Rand McNally in the US were glove box essentials. Millions of drivers used them to plan entire family vacations. And no matter how frustrating it was to fold the map back up properly, there was something special in that ritual. That map didn't just show you where to go, it held the journey itself. The places you'd seen, the wrong turns that became part of the memory. Today we follow silent arrows. Back then we read the road with our eyes and our hearts. And speaking of silence, the next item will take you back to a time when the sound of life was simpler, warmer, and spun gently from the turntable in the living room. 6. Listening to vinyl records. Before the skip button, before shuffle mode, before personalized playlists, there was vinyl. A big round disc that demanded attention, care, and time. Listening to music meant pausing everything else, picking the right album, gently placing the needle, and letting yourself go from side A all the way to side B. The scratches were part of the experience. The static became its own kind of soundtrack. And more than just hearing a song, you followed the story the artist wanted to tell. Each album was a journey. And skipping ahead? That wasn't even an option. Vinyl records dominated the music market for nearly 80 years. In the 1970s, over 80% of American households had a turntable. Many parents passed their collections on to their children like treasures. Listening to music was a ritual. You'd sit on the floor, lean against the wall, or lie on the couch, reading the liner notes while the sound filled the room. No earbuds, no multitasking. Music was shared. It was alive. Today we can stream millions of songs instantly, but very few make us stop what we're doing, just to listen. Maybe that's why so many people still miss that imperfect yet deeply human sound that came from those dancing needles. And since we're talking about slowing down, the next item will take you back to a place where silence was golden, and finding knowledge was a true treasure hunt. 5. Researching in encyclopedias. Before search engines, instant answers, and asking anything to your phone, there was the bookshelf, and on it, a proud collection of hardbound volumes with gold lettering on the spine, the Encyclopedia. Looking something up felt like a mission. You'd walk to the shelf, pull out the right volume, flip through carefully, find the entry, and read. There were no summaries, no quick videos, just focus, quiet, and real learning. The World Book Encyclopedia, first published in 1917, became one of the most popular reference collections in the US, right alongside the Encyclopedia Britannica. For decades, encyclopedia salesmen went door to door, and almost every household had a full set. Many kids did their homework by hand copying paragraphs. Some parents read an entry a day to keep their minds sharp. And the truly curious, they'd spend hours just browsing random topics for the joy of discovery. Today, we carry the entire world's knowledge in our pockets. But do we absorb it the same way? Or did we lose something when everything became just one click away? And if learning took time, imagine what it was like to be entertained only by voices in the air. Number 4 will bring you back to a time when imagination did all the heavy lifting, and did it beautifully. 4. Listening to radio dramas. Before Netflix, YouTube, and dozens of cable channels, there was another way to get lost in great stories: the radio. For those who lived through the 1940s, 50s, and even 60s in the US, this was the heart of home entertainment. Families would gather in the living room, tune the dial just right, and let the voices fill the night. Radio dramas had everything: mystery, romance, adventure, comedy. And more than just hearing them, we saw them in our minds. Every creaking door, every thunderclap, every background tune was an invitation to imagine entire scenes. The living room became a stage. The radio became a world. Shows like The Shadow, Gunsmoke, Dragnet, and Suspense were must-hear programs in millions of American households. During the peak of the so-called golden age of radio, over 80% of US homes tuned in daily. Silence was sacred. Kids were spellbound. Adults would discuss episodes the next day as if they had seen a film. And all of it without a single image on a screen. Today we're overwhelmed with visual noise. But back then, all it took was a good story and a radio on the shelf to transport us to another world. No distractions, just pure attention, real emotion, and an imagination firing on all cylinders. And speaking of emotion, the next item goes even deeper. A time when relationships didn't need Wi-Fi, notifications, or online statuses to feel real. 3. Dating by landline, and folding love notes by hand. Before dating apps, instant messages, and social media, love was nurtured with pen and paper, and phone calls after 9 p.m. Calling someone was a big deal. You needed courage and a little luck so their parents wouldn't answer first. And if they did, that classic "who's calling please" could make any teenager break into a sweat. Conversations were long, filled with soft silences and shy laughter. They often lasted for hours, and usually ended with the sweet standoff. You hang up first. And if a call wasn't possible, we wrote. Notes were carefully folded with secret techniques and passed along in school, slipped into lockers, or handed through a car window. In the 70s and 80s, the household landline was the main communication channel for young couples. Waiting for the phone to ring, or for your turn to use it, was part of the emotional journey. There was mystery, there was patience, and there was room for imagination. You didn't see their face constantly. There was no profile picture. Everything moved slower, but felt more intense. Today, everything moves fast, and disappears even faster. But those who remember the days of long calls and handwritten notes know loving was harder back then. And maybe that's exactly why it felt more real. And if your heart skipped a beat when the phone rang, just imagine what it felt like to walk into a store and discover that what you wanted only existed if it was on the shelf. Number 2 will remind you how even shopping moved at a different pace. 2. Shopping in person. Before e-commerce, online coupons, comparison sites, and same-day delivery, shopping was a physical experience, full, real, and often exhausting. If you needed a new appliance, a pair of shoes, or even a birthday gift, you had to leave the house, head downtown, go from store to store, ask about prices, haggle, and return home with bags in your hands and the satisfying feeling of accomplishment. In 1985, over 94% of all purchases in the US were made in person, at malls, department stores, or local markets. Black Friday? It only happened in physical stores, and if you wanted the best deal, you had to wake up before sunrise. Sometimes in the cold, coffee in hand, newspaper ad folded in your pocket. But that was part of the excitement. There was contact with the seller, the product, and other people. You could touch it, try it, test it. And when you finally took it home, it felt like you earned it. Today we buy almost everything with a click. But do we still feel the same joy? Or did we give up part of the experience when we traded the walk for a tracking number? And now we've reached number 1. And this last one, it may just touch you the most, because even without the internet, life used to be full of connection. 1. Living in the moment. Before notifications, flashing screens, endless feeds, and the constant tug of smartphones, being present meant exactly that. Being in the now, with the people around you, in the place where your feet stood, in the moment itself. You'd go out for dinner, and no one was looking down at their lap. Conversations flowed without digital interruptions. Kids played outside until dark, without fear, without GPS, without needing to check in. Parties were captured by memory, not by stories. And life happened in real time, the kind that doesn't come with a rewind button. In 1995, fewer than 15% of American households had a computer with internet access. Most human connections still happened face-to-face, over a landline or through a handwritten letter. People looked each other in the eyes. The pauses between sentences were natural, not awkward silences filled with scrolling. We listened to music, watched a movie, read a book, without just checking our phones every 2 minutes. There was focus. There was presence. And maybe, at the heart of it, that's what we miss the most. Not the old tech itself, but the feeling of being truly whole in each moment. Of living each small thing with intention, attention, and a full heart. If you've made it this far, it's because you've lived a full life, and carry stories that younger generations may never fully understand. But that's a gift. A treasure not stored in the cloud, but in your heart. These 10 memories aren't just nostalgic. They're reminders of a time when life was slower, more tactile, more human. Now tell me in the comments, which one hit you the hardest? Which would you relive, even just for a day? And if this video brought back something warm, something real, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who remembers this world without wires but full of connection.